Hi everyone, this is Cami Westall at Piedmont Tech with a few basic things as a refresher that you should know when you're taking a college history class. Some of these things that could get confusing, especially if you haven't been in school in many years. And one, especially for people taking Western Civ class, involve two things that start with E, Europe versus England. Europe is one of 7 continents. So there's North America and South America, that's 2. Europe, Asia, Africa, and Antarctica, and the Australia-Oceania area. So Europe is this chunk that's going on over here. Russia is so massive that it takes up part of Europe and Asia. Turkey in here has a split personality, and Turkey doesn't know what it's doing and which continent it's involved in half the time. So these countries here are Europe. Notice this little island here. There are 3 countries that are part of that island, and one of those is England. So England is one European country that is on the island of Great Britain. Britain, or Great Britain, is that island there that also has Scotland and Wales as smaller countries on it and less populated countries. The area is commonly just referred to as Britain since they're in a political alliance known as the United Kingdom. But England in general, to keep that straight in 2 E's, England is a country on the island of Britain. The whole island of Britain, the country of England, Wales, Scotland are all in the continent, considered to be in the continent of Europe. So England, one country within the European continent. So another England thing that can be confusing, and that would be describing what New England is when you're taking U.S. history. New England is going to be a geographic area. Where's my number 2 there? There we go. Other than being a football team, New England is a geographic region in the United States. The 6 most northeastern states, i.e. the upper right-hand corner on your map of the United States, are included in the geographic term of New England. So those states that were developed by the British in the northeast or upper right-hand corner of the United States, those states are New England. So England is a country in Europe. New England is a region in the United States. And again, a good football team with Tom Brady as quarterback. So that's New England. Another geographic thing, just to make sure everybody is clear on that, Washington, D.C. versus Washington, the state. Washington, D.C., so notice on the little GIF that I created here, is a federal district. It's a little chunk a few miles by a few miles, located smack between Virginia and Maryland. It is not part of a state, so it is between those 2 states. It's a federal district that Congress is in control of, and Washington State is way over on the Pacific Northwest. It is the 42nd state to be admitted to the United States. They have apples, they have George Washington on their flag, and it is the only state to be named for a president. So they are on different sides of the country. D.C., also known as the District of Columbia, our nation's capital. Washington State, way over on the other side of the country. So those differences there. Washington, D.C., again, is not a state, not a part of a state, and it is not a state itself. Leaving geography a bit, the concept of a battle and a war. So you hear the phrase, you may have won the battle, but you have lost the war. So what does that mean? A war is a large-scale conflict between 2 or more nations, countries, or other entities. A battle is an altercation that is smaller in scale and more localized. Many battles happen within a war. So there are ongoing wars. There is a war, a civil war that is happening in Syria that is a mess. There are wars that are these ongoing conflicts, and there are battles within those. So, for example, as example number 1, the Battle of Gettysburg fought in 1863, was the bloodiest overall battle in the American Civil War. The war lasted for several years, 4 years. The battle lasted for 3 days, so it was a localized, smaller, very deadly occasion, with tragic results in the number of lives lost. But that was one battle in a broader, more large-scale conflict. Example number 2, the Battle of the Bulge was a frigid contest between the Germans and Allied forces during World War II. The United States and its allies tried to suppress a German charge. This lasted weeks. It was cold. Still lasted a long time, but it was part of a huge struggle that was being fought between different countries during World War II. So this is one battle, one localized area, whereas World War II was being fought all over the place. So a battle happens within a war. And point number 5, last for now. BC, BCE, CE, and AD, OMG. Lots of initials that you will see used, and they've kind of changed in recent years somewhat. So, BC and AD have historically been used in our Gregorian calendar to separate 2 eras. BC means before Christ, and AD means Anno Domini, which is Latin for the year of our Lord. Jesus was probably born around 4 BC, maybe 6 BC, but there was a calculation goof later on by a guy. So year 1 AD in our calendar is roughly associated with the first year of the life of Jesus. Gregorian calendar is what we use. It's the standard international calendar with your 12 months. And that calendar and our year structure in that, with 365 days divided into those 12 months, is based on the same kind of start date. There was a build-up with our years going forward from when Jesus had been born, and the years go before that, the BC years, are kind of building up to that time period. So it's actually, the BC years are going backwards, and the AD years in which we live are going forwards. So, baby Jesus, born somewhere around 4 BC, but maybe up to 1 AD is when they're saying. So the years build up to that. So you're getting the closer to where we are. So 1 BC is closer to 2016 than 23 BC is. 23 was going back. These things are building up to the birth of Christ. Once Christ was born, then the years start going forward. So it's all built up to that. So you see a year like 499 BC, so 499 years before, roughly, the birth of Jesus. And that would be what's marked as BC. However, sometimes you're now going to see that listed as BCE. Over the past 10 years or so, it has become politically correct to say and write BCE and CE to mean before Common Era and Common Era for people who are not Christians. But the Common Era is still marked by the approximate birth date of Jesus. So you can use either reference since they both refer to the same thing. It's the same time period, whether you're using CE and AD. It refers, those years match up. And there is not a year 0 in either system. You just go from 1 BC or BCE, if you choose to use that, to 1 AD or CE. There is no 0. So the year 0 is admitted. But there we have BCE and BC being the same thing, are marked by the same years and time periods, and ultimately the same event, and CE and AD. So the years go backwards, and you go from year 3 BC to 2 BC to 1 BC to 1 AD, 2 AD, 3 AD, or CE, with no 0. So that is our basic rundown with the timeline there. And as you move forward, if there are other basic things to review, I'll try to add those. But for now, keep calm and study your history.